Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel where we talk all things finance and investing. In today's video, we're going to go into the 50-30-20 budgeting rule. This is a very common framework that you see all over the internet these days. It was made popular by a book put out by Elizabeth Warren, the politician in the US, as a way to help people manage their money. I'll explain what the rule is, and at the end of the video, I'll go into the pros and cons and the way I see it in terms of how you can adapt this to use this for you and have the best success in your budgeting and your personal finance journey. So what is the 50-30-20 budgeting rule? Well, really it is a guideline or a framework that works like this. The first category, 50% of your after-tax income you would use to cover the essentials, the things that you need to get by in your day-to-day life. 30 rule is 30% of your after-tax income would go to the wants, the things that you want but don't necessarily need as part of your essentials. And the remaining 20 would be 20% of your after-tax income would be used to be invested for your future or to pay down your debts. That's the 50-30-20 rule. Remember, this is after-tax income. So let's get into it a little bit further. So let's take the first category, 50% going to your needs. By needs, we really mean the things that you just cannot live without. So that would be obviously housing, right? So it could be your rent payments, your mortgage payments. Food, for example, you can't live without food, so how much you budget towards your food. Transportation, you have jobs, you have maybe you're studying, whatever, but you need to pay for transportation to get back and forth. Utilities as well, you need to keep yourself warm, you need to keep yourself cool. Running water, sanitation, all of this comes into the essentials, and half of your after-tax income you should devote to this. It's also pretty common in this 50% section, I see written in there as your minimum debt repayments that would come a part of this. Okay, so next up in the 50-30-20 rule is the 30% that goes towards your wants. So what would be in this category? Well, this is things that you want but you don't necessarily need. So 30% of your after-tax income would go into things like maybe a gym membership, your subscriptions, dining out, nights out with friends, weekends away, long haul vacations, for example, anything like that that you would like to have, you want to have, but you don't necessarily need to get through the week or the month. And finally, we have the 20% section, 20% of your after-tax income to go into saving and investing and debt repayments for the future. This would be savings, things like an emergency fund where you would want to have, say, 3 to 6 months of cash in case you ever lost your job or had some sort of an emergency. It would also mean contributions to your investment accounts, maybe your retirement account or your tax-free savings account, but money that would go into there for your future. Also part of the 50-30-20 rule in the 20% is using any money to pay off extra payments in your debt. So maybe this would be like a mortgage payment or an extra mortgage payment on top of what you do every month. So an additional payment to pay down your debt is also included in the 20%. All right, so that's a breakdown of the 50-30-20 and all the different components into it. Before we get into the pros and cons of each, in my opinion, I would really appreciate it if you just took a quick moment, hit the like button on this video, subscribe to my channel so you'll get more videos like this. It would really help me grow my channel. I want to hand off all the knowledge I've gained over the last 20 years in saving and investment and working in the financial markets to people like you. So please take a moment and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Let's get back to the video. Okay, so how do you implement this? What are the steps that you would need to take if you wanted to implement this? Well, there's a couple of things that you would want to do. First off, you want to calculate your after-tax income. Very simple to do this. Look at your pay slips. Your company needs to issue this. Break it down, stay on top of it, and look at the figure that's actually paid to you in your bank account. Most of you watching this video, I'm sure, would have a pretty good idea of what their after-tax income is. Now, you take this after-tax income amount that you get every month or bi-weekly, however you're paid, and you multiply it by 0.5, 0.3, or 0.2. The answer to that is going to give you the amount that you can allocate to each category. So for example, if you're earning $3,000 a month or £3,000 a month, for example, then if you multiply that by 0.5, well then 1,500 would go to your essentials. Multiplied by 0.3 and 900 would go to the things that you want in life. And the remainder, multiplying by 0.2, so 600, that would go to the investing in your future. The next step in this, you need to list out your monthly expenses. You now know what your income is, but a real key part of having success in any sort of budgeting is knowing where your money is going. So many people, and I was one of them, you really have no idea sometimes where your money is actually being spent. All of the subscriptions, memberships, all of these things, it can get really confusing. So if you do nothing else, if you go away and list out all your expenses, where your money's going at the end of the month, this is really going to help you fast track and get your budgeting under control. So do this step for sure. After you've done that, now you need to compare your spending to your targets. How much are you spending in your essentials and your needs versus your wants versus saving and investing in your future? Get it all nailed down, get an idea of where your money is going and how your percentages look. Where can you make adjustments? So if you're overspending in your needs, for example, perhaps you want to put more into one of the other categories or vice versa. Pay particular attention to your wants. Is that above 30%? Where can you cut back? The final step to this is you really want to track and review this regularly. Learn from it and make any adjustments that are right for you. This plan should be budgeting for you and specific to you. Okay, so what are the pros and cons of the 50-30-20 rule? Well, here's my opinion on all of this. As someone who's been saving and investing, living below my means for a long time now, this is what I think of this program. First of all, the pros. The first one, it's very simple. If you're not doing any budgeting at all, this is a great place to start. If for no other reason, to get you thinking about budgeting your money, getting an idea of where your money is going, how much you're earning, how much is going out, and where it's actually going. You might be surprised when you sit down and do the numbers. So this is a great first step for getting control of your finances. Another thing I like about this framework, it allocates 20% to investing in your future, retirement accounts, investment accounts, things like that. A lot of people are less than 10% even, and I think that that's not enough. And you need to be investing more to hit your goals, whether that be retire early, save for a housing deposit, whatever it is. But the thing I like about the framework, it starts at a 20% number and goes from there, and I think that's great. So what are the cons of the 50-30-20 rule? Well, number one, it probably may not work for everyone. Let's be honest. Only spending 50% of your net paycheck to your needs might be a challenge for some people. If you're on a lower income, this might be not attainable. You've got to have the basics covered. Security, clean water, sanitation, all of these things, being comfortable, need to come first. And there's only so low that you can go. So I appreciate for people on a low income, this framework may be a challenge and you may find yourself at 70, 80% covering your needs. Unfortunately, that's the case. Another thing I don't really like about this framework, it allocates 30% to your wants and only 20% to saving for your future. I prefer that was swapped around, in all honesty. I think wants should not be higher than investing in your future, your retirement, your savings accounts. Of course you need to live your life. Of course you need to enjoy it. I completely agree with that. And I've certainly have done that throughout my life. But I think 30% over the 20% savings, I prefer it was the other way around. Here's the main thing that I think is a disadvantage of this framework. It includes minimum debt repayments in the needs, and it also includes debt repayments in the 20% saving for the future. In my opinion, if you're thinking about doing this framework, and it's a good starting point, I think you should prioritize your debts as goal number one, especially if those are high interest bearing debts like credit cards, for example. You've got to kill those first. So if I were you, I would scrap this whole thing and I would just prioritize over the next year or two whatever I need to do. If I need to live in shared accommodation, move back in with my folks if I'm younger, for example, and I would just get as much money saved up to kill off those debts. They will absolutely destroy you if you do not get on top of your credit card and your high interest debt. So prioritize that first before really getting into this. Then you can start looking at saving an emergency fund and things like that, but get rid of those high interest debt. Do not accept those as just a part of life and something that you just pay month in and month out. It'll be so much harder to get ahead like that. Prioritize the debts and get rid of those. Another con that I dislike about this, if you earn more money, you're a higher earner on a higher salary, the 50-30-20 rule might skew your sort of goals a little bit. So if you can live off 40% of your net income for your needs, then do that. Take that extra 10 and move that into the savings and up that one. Reduce your wants by maybe 10%. It doesn't have to be 30%. If you're earning more money, maybe your needs are met with spending 20% on your wants. Take that 10 and move that into your savings as well. So don't get too hung up on this rule, overall, and prioritize the savings and investing portion more, particularly if you're a higher earner, and you can do so. Ultimately, I think the savings and investment portion should not be limited to 20%. That number should go up as much as you can possibly do it that you're comfortable with while still balancing your life and your fun. So ultimately, my opinion on the 50-30-20 rule, use this as a framework. If you're starting from nothing, this can help get you a little bit of a plan in place and get on top of your finances. But the main thing is here that you get out of debt and that you use this as a framework and adjust it and tailor it to your specific needs. So ultimately, you're spending less than you earn and you're investing the difference. That's the key to success in investing. If you're on a low income, don't worry. There's some real great stories of people who were on low incomes that accumulated incredible amounts of money. My favorite one at all was the janitor from Vermont, who was on a very low income, as you can imagine, but he died with an $8 million stock portfolio, all through disciplined saving and investing. If you want to learn how he did it, just click on this video right here. I'll see you over there, and I wish you all the best in your savings and investment journey.